I wanted to talk about really quick, because I may do a little work tonight, just because I think it's kind of cathartic in a way, might be a weird way. Um, I've had a lot of questions about how I can read things and transcribe things and write things that have to do so much with like these really horrible, disgusting, um, like heinous crimes that Epstein participated in, but also I believe Donald Trump participated in. I believe a lot of the people in the birthday book participated in. They're not very quiet about it. They're pretty brazen. I don't think they ever thought it was going to be part of evidence, obviously. And here's the thing. This is why I can sit down and type these things up and talk about these things and then rest at night and fall asleep easily at night. Um, as you probably know, because I've mentioned it a few times, I work as a transcriber and I have for many, many, many years. Much of my work in the first few years was legal. And so that was a lot of listening to depositions or listening to interrogations or even listening to like roadside DUIs, which were horrible to transcribe. Horrible because there's traffic going by. But in the beginning, I started having to listen to interrogations of people who had been accused of crimes against children. And in the beginning, I mean, they were very tame comparatively, all bad, but tamer. And I remember I called the person in charge of the work because I was not working independently. I was working for someone else. And I said, how can you have us typing this up? I mean, how are we supposed to sleep at night? And they said, well, you can or you don't have to, but, somebody has to do it. And I kept it up. I kept with it. And over time, I began to realize that the work I was doing, this small, tiny cog in the machine of these big trials, and some of them were very big trials, was doing a very small part in putting this one singular person away forever from harming people ever again. And if I didn't do my small part, they had to find somebody else to do that part in order to convict this person and put them away forever so that they could never harm kids again. And when I realized that, and I started to think about that, I could separate what I was hearing from like an emotional level and work on a level of I'm doing my part so that this person isn't walking the streets, couldn't harm my kids, couldn't harm anybody else's kids from this one tiny piece of this investigation or trial or whatever it was. My tiny piece has to be there because if you don't have that piece, then you don't have the whole puzzle. And so I did that for a long time. And, eventually it gets easier, obviously. You start to learn how to hear for clues, I think, in these interrogations, because you'll listen to people and think, oh man, they're innocent. This is a great alibi. And then by the end, they absolutely did the crime. And it's like, oh, I was wrong. And so I learned along the way how to listen for those clues that the investigators were listening to know if somebody was innocent or guilty. And granted, going into the interview, they have a lot more information than I do. Generally, the biggest piece of information they have is the testimony of the child because children don't know how to have that kind of verbiage in order to say what happened to them. They don't know how to make that stuff up. So when I began typing up, first writing about the Epstein stuff, but then especially as I've been typing up this birthday book, just because, again, I like to simplify things. That's one of the probably biggest things I do on my Substack is just take big documents and simplify them so they're easier to understand. The birthday book, it's called The First 50 Years. It is, it's a lot of handwritten letters that are very faint, whoever photocopied them on like a 1990s Xerox machine. It's the worst photocopy job I've ever seen in my life with all the technology that we have. Um, but I was able to mostly go in and look at this really faint handwriting, cursive, whatever, and get most of it. There are pieces I missed that people have kind of popped in and said, I think I know what that says, and they've been very helpful. So if you see that I missed something and you know what it is, please tell me, because that's great. Teamwork makes the dream work. So I've been typing this up, and again, like I said, it's very brazen. It's very unapologetic. It's like celebratory, right? Most people got to the point where there was pictures of the young girl. Um, the pictures were probably, I don't know who they are. They were probably put in there by a family member who has a young child, and my guess is they are for more innocent reasons, but just the idea of it overall is a little bit icky. And she's been redacted. So I will finish that up tonight. You'll have the whole thing. I split it up in 5 pieces just because I didn't want to have a Substack that was years and years long. But there is an interesting piece at the end. It's like 4 pages from the end. And Zev, I don't think he's on here, but Zev Shalev was messaging me about it last night, saying, is this in there? And I said, yeah, it's in there. And so I will indicate that tonight, because again, it's one of those things that Ghislaine Maxwell sat and lied her ass off about, and here's the evidence that if she was lying, which is fantastic. And it's a nice, juicy bit of evidence that breaks down a lot of the history of how she knows Epstein. So that's fun. That's good. Good to find these things. And then, it's just nice to have a better copy of something. Whenever we're going to get pieces of evidence from the DOJ, they're going to kind of begrudgingly give us things, but then they're going to give us things that are either hard to find, right? I struggled finding this birthday book, and a whole bunch of people were like, here it is, here it is. So that was very helpful. But even me, who's like always digging, like I couldn't find it at first. And so that's the point. They don't want you to find it. When you do find it, they want it to be really shoddy and hard to read. And uninteresting, and like, oh, this is a 230-page document. So, whatever. We're just going to hide it from you, but it's also available. So I'm going to make it available really big and bright with a marquee and free and easy. And that way, if they delete it, I still have it. So anyway, that's how I can sit and type things up. I just know that if I don't, maybe someone else is doing it. But if no one else is doing it, then the chance of getting accountability for any of this stuff goes down. And granted, we are not in a trial right now. This isn't part of a trial right now. This is all, I don't know what this is. They want it to be nothing. Everybody knows it's something. So yeah, I'm going to continue on with that. And then I'm going to go back to the Maxwell interviews. I'm going to go back to the blacklist or the black book. I have like 64 half-done projects, but they will get done. Okay, that is all. Thank you for your patience today. It's been a very long day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.